Good evening, everybody. I'm Brian Littleton, your host of Racelogic Chassis School, and tonight we got Roy Bain. Uh, he's sitting out in California right now. He's one of the original guys who started the Tri-State Pro Stock Series, and I met Roy about 4 years ago. Roy,
Yeah, about 4 years ago in Las Vegas.
yeah. Uh, kind of give all the viewers. We're starting to get a few online now. Kind of get them a little idea of what the of what the Pro Stock kind of the rules are, how it got started, and what your guys are doing out on the coast.
Okay, yeah, the Tri-State Pro Stock Series we started because I live up in Oregon, and every year they run the Bud Nationals down in Bakersfield, California, and they give away some really cool guitars for first place. And I've always wanted to go down there and run it because I like to travel a little bit. But I could never bring my Pro Stock out of Oregon and run with the Bakersfield cars because their rules said they had to run a Panhard bar. I run a J bar, just little slight differences. So we've seen that happening with a lot of the pro stocks on the West Coast, and everybody getting 8 or 9 to their show, and every track had their own little variation of the rules. So we all got together and said, you know what? Let's run a few races, put some money up to win, and just tell them to load up just like you are on a Saturday night to go racing. You don't have to buy extra tires. You don't have to buy special this for a race. Excuse me. Just bring your car legal. If you're a Bakersfield car, your car's got to be legal to the Bakersfield rules, whatever. Let's put them on the track and see how close they are. So we did it, and we found out, and we've kind of talked about this from the beginning, is a pro stock's a pro stock. It doesn't matter if they're in Bakersfield or they're in Klamath Falls, Oregon, where we're at. They're all very close. And so we did it. So we have a rule option one, rule option two, but we allow pro stocks from all the other different tracks to come up and run their stuff. And we're finding everybody's actually liking to travel what we're doing, and they're having fun. I'm wearing Justin Crockett's hat tonight, and he's a guy that's very, very well known in Bakersfield, very fast. He come to Antioch and he ran his first ever B main. He had to run the B main, and he said, I wasn't quite ready for that. I've never had to run a B main. So we're actually starting to see some good B main racing, good car counts, and no one group of cars is running away with it whatsoever. We're finding out that all the cars are equal no matter where they're at. So it just kind of has taken off and grown from there.
Am I right, Roy? You said most of the cars are an older B mod or an A mod that they turned to a three link, and am I right? Is that kind of how they are?
It's kind of half and half right now. A lot of guys are going back, and a lot of the guys that really like this series do reflection on it and say they're late 80s, early 90s late models. So they're going out in the woods behind their house and pulling that old 20-year-old car out of the field in the back and putting it together. So we've got leaf springs, we got three links. It's just a combination of whatever they're doing. We're finding out that the leaf springs are just as competitive in our group as even the three links.
How many races are y'all going to run this year?
I think we're going to run a total of 14, maybe 15. I can't remember the exact number, but we
Yeah,
got quite a few.
and they all pay pretty well. Is that right?
Every one of our races this year is going to be at a minimum 1,000 to win and $100 to start. We're trying to take care of the back half of the purse as well as the front half. July 4th, one of our sponsors, Lyle Hopper with Winning Attitude Motorsports, has put the money together. It's going to be paid $2,000 to win on the 4th of July at Susanville, California. Uh, the same with Bud Nationals. He came on board. It's $1,000 to win Friday night, and it's $2,000 to win, 200 to start on Saturday night for the pro stocks at the Bud Nationals this year. Which I didn't get to it. We got invited to go run the Bud Nationals this year after all we've been doing. We actually got invited to come down and run the Bud Nationals this year.
Right. How far are y'all traveling? I mean, how many hours away from like the Oregon region where you're from?
Oregon to Bakersfield is about 10 and a half, 11-hour tow. Um, we're finding out that the guys from Bakersfield are doing quite a bit of towing. They're towing 6 or 7 hours. We do have our first Oregon race this year. It'll be a good tow for those guys. But now that we're expanding, we're actually getting races in their area too. So we're trying to limit A lot of our good racing comes more in Central California, like Petaluma, Stockton, places like that where it's real centrally located. Then it's about 5.5 hours for everybody normally to tow. Susanville, it's about 7.5 for these guys down here. It's 4.5 for us up north. Um, we weren't in the position last year to spread the schedule out like we did, but now tracks are seeing what we're doing, so we're building up and we're getting to actually go keep the races to where everybody's not one guy's having to travel all the time. We're trying to get it more even and more balanced so everybody's kind of towing equal.
Right. Uh, how many how many cars y'all getting on a regular weekend average?
Uh, our biggest number so far has been 28. This past weekend, I think they had 15 in Susanville. Uh, the race before that, we were in Wairika and actually had 27 the first day and 25 the second day.
Right. So good car counts. I mean, and Wade had said, I think I'll show it to you here. He said, awesome concept. Loved the reality in this. So, I when I met you several years ago, y'all just had started,
Right.
and you was just trying to find something a little more affordable for guys to do, and guys with old cars, that hadn't been racing or they hadn't raced them in a while, and they wanted to, try to find something that you could put everybody together and go race, affordably. And it looked like you guys had done that.
Yeah. On average, and when I say this, I'm not. I hope I don't piss off all your other people that listen to this. But a lot of us can't go out and afford a $15,000-$20,000 roller to go racing. So we get cars. My car I bought out of Iowa. It's a 2008 Victory Sport Mod chassis. I ran it for a couple of seasons. I did put some money into it and upgraded it, but I bought my chassis for $1,500. Uh, I spent $2,500 on a motor, and I led my first laps with it, and I have to attribute going to your class to doing that because we went to your class, and that's when I got the new chassis, and we used a lot of what you taught in that school when we put it together. And I went out the very first night in it and led the first laps I've ever led since I've had a pro stock. So I mean, you're looking at most of us are into a car that we're competitive in for, $10,000 or $11,000 total. So it's we don't have special shocks. We don't. I mean, I bought shocks this year from Wade, and if they're nothing. They're really honestly nothing super special. They're just stock Bilstein shocks, basically.
Right. Well, I think me and Wade has talked a few times about it. It's a great concept, and like I said, when I met you in Vegas that year, y'all were just starting this series, kind of trying to figure it all out, and we just kind of become friends, and you kind of keep up with me on what you're doing, and man, that's a big deal out on the West Coast because I think when I met you, you guys, you told me we're behind a little bit on technology, so
Yep.
uh, you know to be able to go somewhere like you did the class and learn, and some of you other guys did. I mean, it was a big deal for you guys.
Yeah, it was, and I told you this. We talked, excuse me, privately off the air, and I'm not claiming to know nothing. I'm not going to ever say that, but I thought I kind of had a basic concept of the race car and all that stuff when we put it together. And I am telling you, when Kelly stood up there the first 30 minutes, it was like, man, we didn't do anything right on this car. It's like, we got to go back to the drawing board. Nothing. He literally is like the first 30 minutes. It's like, we didn't do anything right on my car. We got to go back. It
Right.
was like, wow. So,
Well,
yeah,
go ahead, Roy.
I was just gonna say it was really cool seeing somebody like Kelly up there telling us, this is what I do every day. This is how we do it, but this is what we look at. Because man, when they tell you, the light goes off in your head, like, man, that stuff we touch every day. How did we not know that?
Right.
It's just surprising.
Well, and I think when I first met you, that's what we talked about. We're just trying to teach a lot of guys that don't have y'all race 15 nights a year, 20 because of the weather and different things. So, and so you just don't have as many opportunities to get on the track. So when you're able to learn from somebody that races 70, 80, 100 nights a year, there's definitely a big advantage there, for somebody who does that in the Midwest.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely it's a lot of knowledge, and I guarantee you by the end of the second day, your head's just spinning because it's like, man, we were trying to figure out everything you were saying, so it didn't. What I really liked was having the opportunity to talk to the instructors outside of the classroom and say, hey, you were talking about this. What does this really mean? What does this really mean to me? And like Kelly would stand out there. We go out and smoke and could ask him all questions while we're out there taking a smoke break outside. That I really liked that. That was very cool.
Yeah, and I think the first year we went, I think we sold out about every class we went, and man, I met some really neat people like yourself, and guys that appreciate it because most of your chassis school's always been in Midwest, all these years, and so I got a wild hair, and everybody said I couldn't do it, and I said I'm going to do it, and so we ended up being, being able to come out to Vegas and doing two or three different, classes and really getting to help a lot of guys. So, I thought that was pretty cool to be able to do all that out there.
Yeah, and I found out about your thing. I happened to see it by accident. I think Steve, who helps me with my race car, had posted up the link to it, and I said, are you going to it? He's like, yeah, I've already booked it. I said, well, let me jump on there. I want to go to that too and learn because I was always asking Steve questions, and I'm sure he has all that stuff. So it helped me not have to ask near as many questions, which I still ask 1,000 questions a day probably about all that stuff. But it was nice to go in there and actually have some of that knowledge and learn. It, you kind of learn how people are beating you when you go to that school, and it's like once you learn that, then you can go back and work to what you're doing to catch up to what they're doing. That's what I like about it.
Right. Well, like I said, you guys have built something out there that's pretty amazing. I've kept up with you over the last few years, and like you said, you was just like me when you started. You're like, hell, I barely know how to turn a computer on, and I sure didn't know anything about promoting a race. But it looks like you've done a good job with all of it.
Oh yeah, I enjoy doing it, and I like talking about racing. That's why I started doing the little show on Thursday nights. And if Wade's listening in, thanks for coming on, Wade. That was very cool. Got lots of good feedback on that and all that. Uh, I had to tell a quick story on Brian because I tell this all the time when we're talking about the Racelogic chassis school. I called Brian up. It was in the middle of the week sometime, and he called me back. And I asked him. I said the first question was, I said, Brian, I said, do y'all have a sign interpreter or something in your class that you do it? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, my pit crew guy is deaf and he wants to come with me, and he wants to know if you have somebody that can sign the words and all that stuff. And Brian got deathly quiet for a minute, and then it was real quiet, and he started asking a couple of more questions, and he goes, I've never thought about this and all this. Pretty soon you hear him, he goes, I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful, so if I am, please don't take it that way. He goes, but are you messing with me? He said, in all my years of doing this, I have never been asked that question. He said, I just want to make sure you're not messing with me. I was like, no. I said, legitimately, the guy that helps me with my car is deaf, and he wanted to find out. And then we went from there, and it's like, well, if he can sit up in the front row, he can read lips, and he's got hearing aids and can hear a little bit. And it was like, I thought that was one of the funniest things because I didn't realize I was catching you off the blue because I'd just been around him so long. I don't ever think about people not thinking about that, and then it was just like that was just kind of funny. It always stuck with me when you said that.
Yeah, I do remember that, and I told you, I said, just bring him. We'll put him in the front row, and you just tell him to come on because I think it's pretty cool. Somebody that's hearing impaired that loves the races and wants to be a part of it, just like me or you. So I told you, just bring him on and set him in the front row, and I think he had more fun than all of us put together.
I think he did too, and he learned so much and was excited about it. Just like I shared the picture of him in your shirt the other day. You gave him a shirt, and man, he was wearing it at the racetrack because we were going down there basically for the promotion side of it, not working on the car. So he wanted you to know you represent your class down there, and then we have another gal that goes with us. She's hearing impaired as well, and all that, and I think they like going to the races because when we go to the racetrack, nobody treats them any different. I mean, and I asked him that point blank, and he said, "Yeah, none of us ever even. You just don't think about it when you're doing that. I mean, when we're working on the car, I'll be underneath there and start hollering at him. And my wife's like, dude." He can't hear you. What do you
Right.
need? It's like you don't think about it. You just nobody even thinks about that. So it's kind of fun like that. It just like I said, I do not know sign language. For all of y'all that know, I do not know sign language. So we have to figure out our own way to communicate. And then my wife finally bought me a little whiteboard to write on, so I could write stuff to him while we were in the pits and do all that stuff. So we kind of figured out how to communicate pretty well that way. It's been kind of fun.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's cool to see anybody involved in racing. Like you said, he's hearing impaired, but he still loves to go. So yeah, that was a cool story that I'll always remember. When you called me a time and asked me, and then you guys showed up, and you know I've told a lot of people this. Going to Vegas was Vegas is fun anyway. I know you've been a million times because you live out there, but it's always a good time for us out in the other side of the world to be able to go. But man, just meet so many neat people that I still talk to a lot of the guys, still keep up with the racing.
Yep.
That came through the class and went out there, and when I decided to do it, like I said at the time, you know there just really wasn't nothing out there, no help. So what they learned out there, they either read it online, or they was learned it from their buddy or whatever. So be able to go out there and help a lot of racers. I mean, it was a good time, and we've been back one other time, and just the logistics. It's just so hard because it's about 18-hour drive. For my guy Robert that takes
Yep.
all the equipment and everything out. So it's hard to do, but we did pull one off at the Golden Nugget, if you'll remember. Uh,
Yeah, that was. I didn't know about the Golden Nugget. The one that we went to was at the D, I think.
Yeah, we done them at two different places. One time at the Golden Nugget, and then D's right down the street. But yeah, I remember pushing that front end right down the middle of the casino and into the elevator, and everybody's looking around like, "What in the world are these guys doing?" So uh, it was pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of stuff had to happen, to be able to do that show out there. But we pulled it off, and it was a great time. Had a lot of people come, and lose a lot of money while you're out there and all them good things.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. We live out here, but that's the first time I've ever actually been to Vegas and did anything outside of driving through there in a truck, believe it or not. And we haven't been back since, but we are going this year. We're going out for the Duel in the Desert this year.
Yeah.
I have some friends that are going to run modifieds, and I have a friend that's bringing his super late down there. So, be the first time to go to that for me. I'm kind of excited about that one.
Yeah, I've been to that race I think twice back in the early years when they first started it. But yeah, it's always a good time. That Duel in the Desert brings a lot of guys from out west or out east. I mean, going west
Yep.
because there's nothing going on during that time of the year generally. So, you get a lot of your good racers that want to travel, and they'll go out there and race that race.
Uh, how many of your Racelogic guys ran at Bristol this year, just out of curiosity?
I think there was a few. Some of the guys, and I get it. Some of the guys stayed away a little bit because they knew it was going to be so hard on equipment, especially in the crate world. Uh, they just knew it was going to be hard on motors and equipment. But yeah, we had a few go out there that done pretty well. But the weather and all played a factor in several nights. It was just it's like a month-long deal. So at some point you're going to have bad weather. And
Yep.
I think the NASCAR race, it rained during part of it. There was just a. But yeah, we had guys there. Uh, I was telling you this week when I was talking to you that we've probably had it's hard for me to keep up with the total win count from just this classes this past year, but man, there's been a lot of guys that's won a lot of races, and I'm not saying it's just because they went to the class and now all of a sudden they're winning, but I know Wade's brother Wendell helps a kid, and they had never won a race before, and they won like 5 in a row this year. So after going to the Mike Nichols stock car class, so them kind of stories is kind of what drives me to keep going. Some guys in New York, one of them won a race this year, and he said, "Man, I learned so much that I was behind. I just didn't know." So you know, uh, just to be able to help racers, that's what drives me to keep doing this because, I mean, it takes a lot of time for me. I mean, away from my family, and I got a job that's stressful enough. I work 60, 70 hours a week, but you know, I guess the biggest thing, Roy, and especially on both coasts, is it's amazing at what guys, that they just don't have the technology and stuff as the guys that race in the middle of the year, or in the middle of the United States that'll run 10 to 15 nights, uh, so that's to be able to go out there and do that and help the guys. I'm learning, like I said, I'm learning that each coast, East and West Coast, is they don't always get the help that the Midwest gets. So we've kind of concentrated on the East Coast a lot the last couple of years, and we done that crate load model class first time this year, and man, we sold that thing out, and it was insane. I mean, with Matt Henderson, I'm sure you see his a lot of wins this year. Chip Vineyard and then Steve Hendren, which I know you met Steve and Kate and
Yep.
Robbie and the guys. That was a big class, and we're gonna do it again. There'll be more info coming up on it here before long. I'm not exactly sure where we're gonna do it at yet, but probably back in that east side of the country again somewhere.
Yeah, well, and you've started doing the show, and I know that we talked a little bit on that, and I started doing my little podcast on the weeks, and that it's amazing how much interest there is in doing all that stuff. We're having somebody on tomorrow night that you met through the Racelogic Chassis Schools. Jay Bryant's coming on tomorrow night on our
Yeah,
show. Jay is the title sponsor of our series this year. He put in a significant amount to our points fund and all that. And we kind of talk about Noah Jay on both sides of it. And when Jay came back from your school, he's like, "Oh my God, they floored me with the amount of knowledge they put out in it." And then I know he went to the second one, and it was like, that's the knowledge that comes out of y'all school is first rated. And like I said, it just opens your eyes to what you're not doing.
yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah, and going back to Jay, what a great guy. I mean, I'll tell this story. He probably don't even want me to tell it, but at the first class he attended, and guys that are watching will probably laugh, but I just bought a brand new 55-inch TV that we were doing some video on, so people in the back of the room can see it. Well, needless to say, somebody, I don't remember, tripped on a cord or something, knocked the brand new TV off on the floor, crashed it.
Yeah.
And anyway, we ended up getting through that, made it work. We learned. Well, after the class was over with, Jay come up and handed me some money. And I said, "What's this for?" And he said, "Go buy you a new TV." And it just floored me that a guy, had came from California to Alabama, and then threw me some money because I just broke the TV in the floor. So yeah, great guy, good for the sport. Him and his wife, and he's attended 2 classes, and he's always supported me out there, and that was a big deal to me. Something I won't forget. Somebody to do something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know what. I know you're doing your show to promote some of the people that help you with the show or your school and stuff like that, and then the people that use the skills that they've done it. And we've talked about it on my show. We didn't really necessarily had a plan when we started. We just kind of started, but now we're having people on there that are a lot like you are. They don't have race cars. They don't whatever, but they're just as important to the racing community as the actual car and driver that goes out on the track, like yourself. You've said it before to me. You're first and foremost, you're a race fan, and you've taken that passion for what you feel about racing and put together something that's built into what you've got. And that's what I said. That's what I like doing with my show, is bringing on people like you. And we just had Jerry Van Sickle, who's the announcer out at Marshalltown, on last week, and things like that. Racing isn't just the car going on the track. Racing is a whole group of other people that are involved with it too, and that's like what we like to have on the show is bring people to the forefront. So when they go to the track, hey, you're the dude that announces. Hey, you're the guy that does this, or you're the gal that does this. And I think all those people deserve just as much credit as the drivers do, because I've learned from promoting races, it isn't just showing up, getting in the car, and going on the track. I can guarantee you there's a lot more that goes into it than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always been pretty camera shy. I always said I had a face for radio. Nobody really wants to look at me, but I thought it was important. When you start doing your deal, and Kate Dillon said, "Brian, you need to start doing something," because you get a lot of viewers. There's a lot of people that follow you and what you do, and I just think of some of these guys as my friend, like a Ben Baker or Wade Cross.
Yeah.
I don't always think of them as somebody that a lot of guys look up to, and
Yeah.
so to be able to get them on and talk a little bit. Justin McCree's always a big hit, very knowledgeable guy that everybody wants to listen to, so sometimes you get to put a face with them because them guys are hard to get a hold of. Sometimes they're busy. So for me to be able to steal 30, 45 minutes of their time and let the rest of the country see them and see a face and, ask them a few questions, it is cool, So I've tried to do that. I got Mike Nichols on next week, I think a 9-time national champion, the winningest the winningest IMCA driver in history, So, uh, I've been fortunate to put myself. I always told everybody that Racelogic was never about me. I mean, I'm just a dumb guy from Arkansas that put it together. It was always about the people who I had around me. I always had people successful that wanted to help the racer and give back, and it's hard to find. I mean, I say it a lot. Like a Dave Hammond, I talk to him 2 or 3 times a week. About every week, I talked to him last night for 2 hours probably, but
Yeah.
He's got a passion for racing, and he does build parts, he sells parts, that's how he makes his living. But he also loves what I do. I met him when he was a one-man show, and he built his
Yeah.
own. He started out with just by himself in a small shop, and then now he's got 8 or 9 employees, and he's a major he's a major part supplier in the racing world. And anyway, he always asks me where we doing the class next year. Whatever you want, I'll be there. You just tell me where it's at and I'll show up. And that's important because you
Well,
can
you
watch
need to tell him.
videos. Go ahead.
You need to tell Dave you're doing your next class at Bakersfield and have him get on the plane and come to Bakersfield with you to watch that race.
Right, yeah, for sure. But he's and I talked to Ben Baker this week, and I said, Ben, this is kind of what I'm thinking next year. And he said, man, just let me know. He said, I'll be there. I want to be a part of this. So, uh, I still believe you're only good as the people you're around. So, uh, if you're going to be successful at anything in life, you got to be around successful people. And I just been lucky they trusted me enough to know that I was going to do what I said and when I said and how I said it. And I've always done that. I've made sacrifices, and I've lost money before just to go,
Yep.
places like a Vegas. But I said I was going to do it, and I done it, and helped racers. So, and 99% of the people all appreciate that. I mean, I probably had in my 26, 7 years, I probably had one or two that didn't like the class, but I guarantee you 99% of them left there knowing more than what they did when they started, and then helped their program. So, that was important to me to be able to help them.
Yeah. And I haven't got. When I say meet them, I've met them through like what we're doing here tonight. But like the guys from your school that have been on the show, we had Steve Hendren on there, and I know everybody said he doesn't particularly care for doing these and all that. Man, we talked for an hour and a half on there the night he came on there, and we never met in person. We met via computer. The same thing with Wade Cross there. I met Dave Hammond and you at the school, but I never met Kate Dillon either. And it's just fun to talk with them people because they're kind of like you and I. We just like talking about racing, and I kind of like doing our show every week because we can get on and just talk about racing. It doesn't have to be about anything in particular. It can be about just anything, best times you've had at the racetrack or anything. It doesn't have to necessarily revolve around setting up the car or crate motor information or, that's what I like to
Well,
do, just get together and talk about racing.
yeah. And what I've learned, Roy, is, you know, 99% of all these guys in racing, whether it's a superstar late model guy or who, they're real people. They got families. I mean, they're just like me or you. So I think people sometimes don't see them in that same light. But all these guys, Ben Baker and Kate, they're just behind the scenes. They're just a regular person, that enjoys racing and wants to keep this sport alive. And it's hard. I mean, parts are expensive, tires are expensive. I mean, it's not a cheap sport. So, I always said I've always tried to keep my prices as cheap as I could at these classes. I've changed very little over the last 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I always wanted to have the concept that for the price to go to this class, and I realize there's some travel and stuff involved. You can go out and buy four sets of tires for the same price. So if you can go learn something if you can go learn something that saves you that much money, then it was all worth it. So I mean, and there's other good chassis schools out there. I'm not saying there's not, but uh, uh, I've just always I've always tried to keep that real, keep it down to earth, and everybody knows they can call me on the phone, they can message me on Facebook, and I always get back with them. So uh, it's been successful for me, and got to meet a lot of great people. Some of my best friends came through these schools through the years, and uh, I still keep up with them this day.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I liked about it. And actually, some of the people that we saw at the school, I see at the racetrack now. When we go to Antioch, the Nisses were there. We met them. I knew who they were there the first time I went to Antioch because I met them at your school. Troy Folger was there when we went. I didn't realize they were in the same class, but then we got to talking about that. I've actually met all these people through the Racelogic Chassis School, but now you get to see them at the racetrack. I think that's actually pretty cool too.
Right. Uh, Roy, we got a comment, which it was a guy who went last year to the street stock class in Alabama. Uh, Richard McKenzie, good guy. He told me, he struggled for a few years, and he went to the class, learned a lot, ended up on Wade shocks, and he run third last week. And from his comment there, I think that's the highest finish he's had. I don't know about ever, but in a long time. So, that's the kind of stories that you want to hear about. If you're able to help guys and they listen and want to learn, because like you said, a guy like you, when you first started, you kind of thought you knew a little bit, but you
Yeah.
come to find out you really don't know what you thought you knew.
Yeah. Well, and there is no truer statement that I found out in this sport, and this is it. You don't know what you don't know. That's the biggest thing that you got to remember is you may think you know some things, but there's stuff you don't even know you don't know till you get into it and get into the real center of what's going on, and that's been the biggest thing that's helped me is go find and one of the things that y'all the school taught and they talked about a lot. They said don't get into the same routine of what you're doing at the racetrack. Go talk to that guy that's running up front. See if they'll share what they're doing, and you'll find out that most of the guys that are running up front, I haven't ran across anybody that won't tell you what they're doing or won't
Right.
sit down and try to help you up your game. And that's, I hate to say it, but that's what racing to me is all about. It's the camaraderie when you go to the racetrack and you're doing all that stuff. Maybe you're running fifth or sixth place consistently. What do you need to do to up that? Well, don't go talk to the guy that's running fifth or sixth with you. Go talk to that guy that's running first. Get to know them. See if they'll let you find out what they're doing.
Sure, sure. And I think finding guys like that, and like you said, a guy like Kelly, and I've had Justin and Wade Cross. I mean, Wade always gets mad at me because I tell this to be the truth, and Robbie Bilberry, which you hadn't met, another shot guy that came on board last year. Uh, them guys are real. I mean, they understand racing. They've raced, and they get it. They're not just there to sell you a shock or whatever. They generally want to help you be faster and try to do it in an affordable way. And there's enough out there in the world of people that just want to take some money from you. So if you get them somebody that really wants to help you, I mean that it's huge.
Yeah. Well, when I called Wade, Brian's the one that recommended me to you, Wade. By the way, when I called him, I said, "Dude, I'm telling you right now, this if you're talking shock dyno numbers and telling me all that stuff, just don't even bother because my eyes are going to glaze over. I'm going to have no idea what you're talking about." I said, "Here's what we're doing to the car. Here's what we want it to do. I need some shocks to go with it." And he gave me some ideas on how to do that and built me some shocks for it because I I've been through the shock portion of the class. I just don't understand it whatsoever. I can't grasp it. So I don't want to waste his time. And you just hey, this is what I want the car to do. Can you make that happen? And it's like, yes, this is what we're gonna do. There you go.
Yeah,
That's what I needed to know.
you're right, right. Well, sometimes you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You can uh, you can talk to somebody who can give you that information. And like because I've talked to Wade a lot. We talk quite often, and he's one guy, and Robbie's another one that I've dealt with in the last few years. And I've been asked a lot from several shock builders, "Hey, I'd like to be a part of your class." You know what? I'm a loyal guy to the end, and Wade Cross has been loyal to me. Robbie was the first year last year, but you know Robbie told me earlier. He said it was an honor to be a part of your class, and man, that kind of took me back a little bit. I'm like, you know, you don't know Robbie. I'm gonna have him on in a few weeks. He's another guy, but his full time real job is he works for NASA. I mean, I kid him. Everybody kids him, and he laughs about it. He's a rocket scientist, is what we tell him.
Yeah.
But I mean, he literally works for NASA. This is his job, but man, probably one of the most down to earth guys you ever met. He don't like to talk about it. Generally, he it's just his job. But he said I was raised a country guy, and end up loving racing, and he does his shock deal. Not that he has to financially, but he loves helping racers, and his stuff wins a lot too. So, there is still a lot of good people left in racing. It's getting harder to find. Uh, but there is still a lot of good people, and I'm just been fortunate enough to have a lot of them a part of what I'm doing, and that want to continue to do. And like I said, I'm loyal. I mean, why? I can't find anybody better than a Wade Cross or Robbie in the shock world that I think can help my programming better than what I'm doing. So we're gonna keep doing. I'm gonna keep riding that till them guys tell me no.
Well, I understand that. I'm sure they enjoy doing it. Like I said, I talked with Wade. We did an hour on there. He's another one. He has lots to talk about, and there was guys asked him a few questions on there, and I know there was a lot of them cheering him on when he said them Leaf Spring cars are just as good as the three links. I got a whole bunch of that, so it was cool to hear that because, like I said, with our series, we're finding out, man, those Leaf Spring cars. We had a guy went on a roll and won 5 or 6 of them in a 3,400-pound Leaf Spring car. I mean, and that's they're all equal. It doesn't matter what they are. We're finding out, and that's what I like about our series too. Is it's fun and it's highly competitive. So
Yeah, and that's hard to find because so many tracks anymore across the country, they'll have their own little set of rules or something. So their 15, 20, 25 cars can't really go race down the street somewhere else, and that's the way they want it. So to be able to get a small series together like you guys and keep it competitive, and not have the same winner every week and stuff. That's big for
yeah,
racing. That keeps that local average guy that just kind of on a bare budget, feel like he's got a chance to run a top 5, top 10.
yeah. And you don't mind if I plug some sponsors real quick with it, do you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to think with the Tri-State Pro Stock Series wouldn't be worth that at all without all the great sponsorships. Like I mentioned, Jay from Jay's Mobile Welding, Lyle Hopper, Winning Attitude Motorsports, Richard Baker, VIP Medical Concierge, Rick Workman, Workman's Communication, uh, Travis Peterson from Travis Peterson Racing, Phil Marino, all these guys that put money, Manny Avila, all these guys stepped up, and they're racers that stepped up to help build this series. They race in this series and also sponsor this series. And that Rick Workman's the one that set up my little radio show and got me set up with StreamYard. He does this stuff for a living. He's the one that set me up to do all of this stuff. I mean, we certainly wouldn't be where we were without all these guys. It's been amazing what we've done so far with the guys. It's very, very cool.
Right. And like I said, I was talking to Ben this week, and we were just discussing last year's classes, and I think I get the number off a little bit, but I think they gave out is either $13,000 or $17,000 worth of gift certificates, and he
Yes.
told me that last year was probably the most that ever got turned back in all the years we've been doing this, that he's been giving away. So, and that's big. I mean, to a guy like yourself or somebody that gets a couple $100 off a $400 order, well, go buy you a new radiator or new something, it's $400, and now you get 200 off, it's $200. So, that's big that they do that Ben goes to bat for me, with because that kind of money being gave away has got to go on to the very top, and they got to approve it. And every year, I asked Ben, what we going, can we do something? And he don't even hesitate. So, they're good about giving back to the racers, and guys are using them, and that's why they keep doing them every year. And man, I'm with you on the sponsor deal. I don't necessarily have anybody that gives me money, but
Hmm.
everything that I get, I give back to the racer. I'm a little more fortunate on my side of things versus what you're doing. That you know, I've had people say, "Hey, I want to be part of your deal. What can I do?" I was like, "Well, I don't want any money. I want you to give me a gift certificate, give me money to give back to the racers." So, I've done that with dirt car lifts, done some things. Pulse Racing Innovations, and then AFCO, Pat Fagan with the Fast Shafts. Man, what a great guy! I had him on last
Yeah.
time I was on the air. And, you know, he sends a damn half a truckload of full of stuff. Give out this and that, and so you know, I think they appreciate the fact that I'm not wanting anything free necessarily. I want to give back to the racer, and that's their way of being able to give back to the racer and know it's actually going to somebody in the racing community. And I think last year total, if I counted right, it was over $20,000 that I was able to give away, and just all the different Velocity fire suits, Brad Smith
Yeah. I saw
every year.
those.
Yeah, last year I seen him out in North Carolina at Kate Dillon's car show that she got to pull off, and I've known Bad Brad, golly, probably 10 years, and everybody knows the guy. He's one of a kind, probably the best salesman in the United States. But I said, Brad, what are we gonna do this year? I said, man, I got some good classes coming up. And he said, here, come over here. Well, uh, when he said that, I went over and he shot a video. I didn't even know what he's gonna do. Uh, so when he shot that video, he said, I'll give away a free suit in two of your classes, and he's what he done. So, that ain't something he has to do. I mean, the guy don't have to do that, but he does it to support what I do in his business, and then uh, got to meet Monstone this year with Pit Skylights. Man, what another great guy he was. Never knew him. He came out to he went to Alabama to a class, and then he came to Iowa and gave away all kinds of gift certificates. And he just sent me a message, said, "Hey, what can I do? I love what you're doing." And man, golly, like I said, he gave away a lot of gift certificates, and I know become good friends with him, and he builds a
I
great
met
product.
him. I just met him recently up there at Cottage Grove Speedway, and I knew his name from watching your show. I didn't know who he was, but I was up there with Matthew.
Roy, I think you might have lost sound there. I'm not sure. We'll see if Roy jumped back on here. He drives a truck for a living, and he's at a truck stop. That's where he does a lot of his shows at. So he may have dropped off there for a minute. We'll see if we can get him back on. But I'll continue on. Like I said, Ron Stone with Pit Skylights was a guy this year that stepped up and done a lot, and another great sponsor of what I'm doing. And we're working on a few more things this year. I know uh, Matt Henderson got a lot of stuff last year at the crate class with Wilds Racing products and some different stuff there. Profab, I think, done some stuff. So we plan on doing a lot more of that this year. I think Roy's trying to get back on now, so you guys just give me just a minute. It won't take him but just a minute to jump back on. There he is. All right, Roy, you're back.
Yeah, sorry about that. Somebody called me. I put my phone on do not disturb, but I guess since it's open, it rings through. So I didn't do it just right. So somebody tried to call in the middle.
That's all right. I was just talking about, the last thing was Spit Skylights, and you said you met him out there, and you probably wouldn't have known who he was if it wasn't for hearing seeing him on my show.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit there at the racetrack a little bit, and that's kind of got to know somebody. And I'd never been to Cottage Grove before then either. I'd never been to their raceway till that night, so that's kind of kind of going back to the whole circle of Racelogic, getting to know people through what you do. So that's just another cool story about that.
Yeah, yeah, he was another guy this year, and Wade's always done a little something, and Robbie and Wade this year at the class down south. Robbie had a set of shocks, and he brought this idea up, and I've never done it before, and it was really the coolest thing I've probably ever done. He said, "Hey, I'll give away a set of shocks," but he said, "Better yet, let's do a $10 raffle on it." So, what I done, he gave away a set of shocks, but I done a raffle, and all the money that I collected, I think it was $10 each.
Mm-hmm.
All the money I collected, I gave back out to the racers.
Yep.
Plus, we gave away a set of shocks. So it was a double good for everybody in the room because there was a lot of guys who won money. They might have gave say $50 to put their name in the drawing for the shocks, but they also I gave away the set of shocks, and then I can't remember if it's like $2,000, $2,500 that we gathered up. I
Mm-hmm.
broke that down and gave away like two or three 400s and a couple 200s, and so we ended up giving a lot back to racers. Now I realize people put money in the pot, but that was a neat deal. And Wade gave away a set of shocks this year, and actually the kid that won them has won several races on him down in Mississippi, Alabama area. So, uh, I'm going to continue to do that. Try to give away stuff and all for guys to win. That's important to try
Yeah.
to help out all I can.
Well, and I want to add to this that you said I promote the series. I want to make sure everybody knows this too, because that just along the same lines that you're doing. Uh, Gordy Russell helped me start this and get it going the first year, and then he stepped away. He started his own business, and he lived all the way out in Elko, Nevada. So it's like 14 hours to any of the tracks for him to come. Which so I understand that part of it. But now a gentleman by the name of Mike Learn helps me with it and helps he kind of streamlined our rule sets and things like that. But him nor I, neither one, we don't take anything from this series either. We don't get a promoter's fee. We don't get anything. Every money, every dollar that comes into this series is paid back out to the racers. So this is kind of what we've done so far has been an all volunteer basis for myself and Mike and Gordy and all those involved, which has led to some other things, just like you were saying. I've had some people come up and actually say, hey, put this towards your race car, or some people that have done some things. Lyle has helped me with some personal sponsorship. It's led to some other things. But no, as far as what we bring into the series, everything is paid back out to the drivers. We're in this because we love the pro stocks and we want to build the series up. It isn't about any of us making anything out of this deal. It's just having great shows and having great races when we go. I want to emphasize that because when everybody says promoter, no, we're not those guys. We don't do that. So,
Right. Well, and I've been asked this a lot through the years from people kind of off to the side. They always ask why I don't have a primary sponsor, like a AFCO or, Racelogic by AFCO or whoever it might be. And I always said this, and I've told Ben this and the rest of them. I'm not saying that's ever been offered, but I don't ever want to be controlled by anybody else. I want to do what I want to do and how I want to do it. And it may not be the right way, but it's work. So I always felt like if you took money from somebody, then you're kind of obligated to do things like they want to do it. So I always just felt like it was best that I didn't take any money. I gave it all back to the racers. That way I make my own decisions about who comes, who don't come, the times I want to do it. And, that way you're just not obligated to any one company, so that's why I've always just never asked for money because I didn't want to be, I didn't want somebody to say that I need to do something different. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And if it's wrong, if I win, I win. If I fail, I fail, but it's all back on me.
yep, that's it. That's we don't really do it. We just tried to keep this series was built on the principle of keep it simple. Don't do anything extravagant. Don't do anything what. Just keep to the basics of simple. Have good car counts, good racing, and good camaraderie afterwards. And we went to Hanford for the first time this year too. And Peter Murphy, if a lot of y'all know sprint car racing, he's a big time name in sprint car racing. We showed up. He had 60 wing sprint cars there the night that we went, and he set up the pits. He had the sprint cars in one area. Then the next area was all the pro stocks, and then the next area was all the four cylinders. So each group of cars was parked together. I got to tell you, that was one of the coolest nights at the racetrack ever. All of your group was all in one spot. Everybody hung out, made food, ordered food. That was very, very cool. I got to commend him on that. That's something that you don't see normally, and that was very, very cool. And
Yeah. Yeah, I love that idea. Roy, you was telling me this week about a track in Oregon that's getting 25, 103,000 fans weekly. Is that right?
yeah, it's Southern Oregon Speedway. They just opened up. It's under new management this year. They got started late to the game. It's in Medford, Oregon. Southern Oregon Speedway. It's for me, it's a home track, just like Wairika. Wairika's 71 miles south, and Medford's about 70 miles north. They're right in the middle. That's where we go race. That's our home tracks.
Right.
So
Huge fan count. I mean, you get 2,500, 3,000 people. I mean, that's big. That's
yeah,
big.
it is, and especially with all. But one of the guys that took it over, his name is Dane Smith. He's a late model legend out here on the West Coast, kind of like a Hall of Fame type driver. Him and one of the other guys took it over, and man, they've tried very hard to get it going, and in a short amount of time. So I had to give them credit for what they're doing. Then they're getting. I think all the tracks out here are getting crowds like that. I haven't. Man, I hadn't heard of anybody that's had disappointing fan counts. But when we went to Cottage Grove, there was a ton of fans in the stands.
Well, with COVID last year, and I know we've discussed that, and Oregon was locked down probably longer than anybody.
Oh,
Uh,
horrible.
yeah. Well, we all know what kind of governor you got up there. So, I think now people can get out and go enjoy themselves a little bit. That they're wanting to go out to a racetrack on Saturday night, and I hope they keep supporting them because it's a hard business. I mean, running the racetrack's hard. You
No.
just there's not a lot of money to be made in it, and it's tough. And I read a deal last night that I kind of liked, and I won't keep you on much longer, but you know. Kyle Larson, I've heard a lot, and I've thought about it myself. Is he good or bad for the sport? But I read a deal, and I think I believe it. It made NASCAR guys dirt fans. It made dirt fans, NASCAR fans. So I mean, I really think the guy has done a lot for the sport, and uh, probably in the most positive way of anybody I remember in the last 20 years. Because
Yeah.
he can go drive a damn go kart and win in it. So
Yeah.
jumping back and forth, I think it's just helped all fans. In the dirt racing and asphalt racing.
Yeah. So I have to point out something because I know you're an Arkansas fan. I wore this shirt just for you. It's the Oregon Duck shirt there.
Well, Roy, actually, I live in Arkansas, but I'm an OU fan, so I really catch
Okay,
it.
well, well, there you go. Well, somebody gave me a Nebraska hat, and I could have cared less. They gave it to me, and I wore it around. Oh my God, you get back in Indiana and some of those other places, you wear that. You're lucky if you get out of there alive. I didn't realize it was such a big deal. I really didn't. I just like the hat and wore it. I'm all about free hats. You send me a hat, I'll wear it. So.
Yeah, right. Well, Roy, you got any last minute anything to add to it? I know you probably need to get back on the road. You pulled over for me to give me about an hour of your time. You drive a truck for a living, so uh, you got anything you'd like to add here at the end?
Yeah, come join the discussion group up on the bars discussion. It's in Facebook. That's my little Thursday podcast. We have Brian come on periodically, and like I said, we've had Wade and all those guys. So tune in on our show Thursday even 7 Pacific.
Yeah, and everybody out there, I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm not the most professional guy, and or somebody that likes to be in front of a camera. I'm probably the last that needs to do this, but I just felt like it was important to keep getting the word out, letting people know what I'm doing and what Racelogic's trying to do. And we got some cool stuff coming. I mean, I'm still in the works on where and when classes next year. I'm still looking at me and Matt Henderson. I got to throw this in before I let you off, but we're still looking at possibly. I would like to find one kid, maybe a kid with disabilities or something, to take to a race next year and pay his way. And let him come to the pits, gets the inside of a hauler, kind of, something that somebody that's less fortunate than I am, be able to come. Somebody that loves racing just don't really have the money to go or the time or whatever. So that's something that I've been looking at. I'm not sure how it's going to work or if we can even make it work. But if I find that right kid somewhere in America, I'm gonna make his I'm gonna make his year by getting him to a big race and letting him go out, like I said, in the hauler getting to meet drivers and make it really special night for him.
Yeah. And our other Facebook page too. I about forgot it. The Tri-State Pro Stock Series. We're on Facebook. It's the Tri-State Pro Stock Series, brought to you by Jay's Mobile Welding. You can find it on Facebook. We do live videos from the track as often as we can. You'll see my ugly mug giving updates on the series and stuff like on that too. But it's got our schedule, point standings, all that on there. Or you can go to Tri-State Pro Stock Series or TriStateProStocks.com. It has a link to all the Facebook stuff as well.
Well, hey, great stuff tonight, Roy. I appreciate you taking a little time out, visiting with me, and
having me.
Yeah, it's good times. And I'll get you back on for the end of the year, and we'll see how racing's going. And I'm planning on coming out to the Bud Nationals this year if everything works out right, and getting to see you guys a little bit. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to go eat barbecue while we're out there. There's a place down there that does a lot with the Bud Nationals called Salty's Barbecue, and they sponsor race cars. I've heard it's really good, and I have never been, so we're gonna go eat barbecue in Bakersfield.
We can eat barbecue in California. That's for sure.
Yeah, that doesn't go hand in hand like North Carolina barbecue or Oklahoma barbecue.
There
I understand that.
Yes, sir. Roy, thank you very much for coming on, and I appreciate everybody being on. And like I said, next week we'll have Mike Nichols on and join Roy's discussion on Thursday nights. He always does a good job. Couple hour time difference, but he does a good job. Roy, I'll be talking to you soon, and good luck on your series.
All right, thanks, Brian. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, buddy.
Bye.